English. Please, once you have the headsets and use it for the day, remember to return it after conference, and you may pick it up again first thing the next day. Once again, we request everyone to kindly take your seats. Thank you. Once again, we are inviting everyone to kindly please take your seats. Thank you. Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Warm greetings, welcome back to the Inclusive Lifelong Learning Conference, ILLC. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today is Tuesday, the 4th of July, 2023. So to begin our morning, let's give our round of applause to warmly congratulate the Independence Day of our delegates from the USA. Let's give our round of applause, please. Congratulations. We open this beautiful morning honored to be listening to the remarks from the Minister of National Education, Preschool and Sports in the Kingdom of Morocco, His Excellency Chatib Ben Musa. He's represented by the Honorable Director of the National Agency for Combating Illiteracy, ANCLA. Please welcome to the podium, Honorable Abdelouadoud Kharbouch.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين. Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I personally wish to thank the government of Indonesia and its amazing Kartu Prakerja program for inviting us to the Bali Inclusive Lifelong Learning Conference. I am very delighted to be here today on behalf of the government of the Kingdom of Morocco for the opening the second day of this conference on inclusive lifelong learning, focusing on making inclusive adult learning and education a reality. I wish to thank the Republic of Indonesia and the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning for inviting me to this conference, which is a real opportunity to follow up on the global commitment to implement the recommendation of the Marrakesh Framework for Action, adopted at the 7th International Conference on Adult Education, CONFINTEA 7, which took place in June 2022 in Morocco, under the high patronage of His Majesty King Mohammed VI. The Bali Conference is needed to continuation of the journey initiated by CONFINTEA 7 and contribute to railing and reinforcing the spirit of Marrakesh. I would to highlight the importance of this conference and the issue of everyone's right to lifelong learning as a fundamental pillar of sustainable and equitable development. Certainly, promoting of lifelong learning strengthen our collective capacity to face economic, climate, and health challenges. Lifelong learning is also crucial for adapting to continuous technological transformation and meeting exciting inequality. In this regard, under the wise leadership of His Majesty King Mohammed VI, we reiterate Morocco's unconditional commitment to the implementation of international recommendation and agreement in the field of adult education, particularly the human right to lifelong learning. The commitment of the Kingdom of Morocco to lifelong learning are illustrated in the first, the development of integrated public policies. The second, the design and implementation of valuable systems. The third, promoting better coordination and synergy of social efforts. The fourth, strengthening partnership and founding progress associated with the provision of quality education for all citizens. The fifth, last but not least, guarantee the participation of all in lifelong learning and in the labor market in such a way as to contribute to individual and collective progress. Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in His Majesty's letter to the participants of the 7th International Conference on Adult Learning and Education, His Majesty King Mohammed VI emphasized the necessity to develop effective adult learning education policies, closely related to the concept of lifelong learning and to contribute to the attainment of the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. His Majesty addressed also indicated the need to ensure equitable, more sustainable and inclusive education that enables everyone to have access to quality and lifelong education, enabling all individuals on an equal footing throughout their lives to acquire the various skills and knowledge that enable them to realize their full potential and play an active role in their communities. His Majesty also mentioned the need to strengthen and to coordinate the process of monitoring the implementation of the recommendation of Marrakesh Framework for Action throughout the establishment of a ministerial committee beyond the 7th conference and establishment of the African Institute for Lifelong Learning. Morocco is working today to monitor possible scenario and appropriate mechanism for the effective implementation of these two Moroccan initiatives. In this regard, the National Agency for Combating Illiteracy organized under the honorary chairmanship of the Minister of National Education, Primary Education and Sports of the Kingdom of Morocco, in cooperation and coordination with National Institute for Lifelong Learning, NILE, Republic of Korea, National Association of Municipal and Territorial Lifelong Learning Institute, NAMPIL, Republic of Korea, Islamic World Education Scientific and Culture Organization, ISISCO, UNESCO Lifelong Learning Institute, and Global Partnership for Education, GPE, the International Conference on Lifelong Learning held on 12 and 13 June 2023 at the headquarters of the Islamic World Education Scientific and Culture Organization in Rabat, which was an occasion for the one-year celebration that Morocco hosted CONFINTEA 7. The objective of this event was to follow up on the guideline of the Marrakesh Framework for Action and to strengthen international cooperation and partnership with a view to intensifying efforts and investing best practice to make adult learning and education a key element of lifelong learning process. In this context, we cannot emphasize enough the role of literacy as an essential lever for the promotion of adult and lifelong learning, and to underscore in this meeting the tireless efforts of the National Agency for Combating Illiteracy in this field at both the national and international level. Throughout the operationalization of the agency strategy, intervention main priority as stated in the roadmap 2023-2027, ANCLA is very well committed to structured workshop on digital and on pedagogic transformation in coordination with its various national and international partners. Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. In conclusion, please let me now, please allow me to reiterate my sincere thanks and gratitude to the Republic of Indonesia for warm welcome and hospitality. I wish us all success in this important conference, and thank you again for your attention. And I profit that I can talk about a collaboration between PMO, Carta Praga, and UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning. I am truly honored to be a part of this. Bali, Indonesia is truly beautiful. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Honorable Director. Please stay with us on the stage. Please take your seat. We will proceed immediately for the session and would like to invite to the stage for the moderator for this session, our Inclusive Learning Team Leader of UNESCO Lifelong Learning Institute, Honorable Nicola Jonas. Please join us on stage, and we'll call to assist us in the interpretation. For this session, we will have Education Specialist of the UNESCO for Lifelong Learning Institute, Ms. Sama Shalabi. So please, may we have both of you to come up to the stage.
Thank you, Gida, and good morning, everyone. Mr. Director, thank you for your opening remarks. The Kingdom of Morocco is a source of inspiration for countries around the world, and the work of your agency on the field of adult learning and education is an example. And I would like to thank you, Mr. Kharbouch, for attending the conference on behalf of the Minister, Mr. Ben Moussa, demonstrating once again your government's commitment to adult learning and education at a global level. So I encourage you all to take advantage of the presence of Mr. Kharbouch here to ask your questions to him using the Slido application with the QR code here on the screen. And I will select one or two questions for Mr. Director right after this session. So to give you some time for asking your question, I would like to give you a quick overview based on what Mr. Director just said on the progress made since Marrakesh in making adult learning and education a reality for all. As you may know, since Marrakesh and since also the Summit on Transformative Education in New York, there has been a new impetus for adult learning and education, particularly through the concept of lifelong learning. And several factors can support this observation. First of all, I would like to mention that UIL organized a series of regional follow-up conferences. And the aim of this conference was to contextualize the Marrakesh Framework for Action and to identify regional priorities for action. And I must say that the participation rate of national delegations to this conference was particularly high, which is a good sign of involvement of the global community. Secondly, I would like to mention that during these conferences, we heard many countries present new strategies for adult education or new lifelong learning policies. So it shows a trend towards organizing public action in favor of the Marrakesh Framework for Action, and we saw it particularly in the region of Arab countries and in Asia. I would like also to say that civil society has become extremely involved in the Marrakesh Framework for Action, and this mobilization has been largely worldwide. I'm thinking in particular of the work of ICAE, which the president is with us for the conference, Mr. Guevara. But I would like also to pay tribute to the regional action of some of these organizations, such as ASPABAE for Asia, who did a wonderful job in supporting the implementation at regional level of the Marrakesh Framework for Action. And finally, I would like also to mention that 1 year after CONFINTEA 7, UIL wishes to launch, in conjunction with member states and some of our historical partners, such as DVV International. So UIL wishes to launch regional communities of practice, where stakeholders, whether state or non-state actors, will discuss the challenges and solutions for implementing the Marrakesh Framework for Action. And we were surprised to see that this project has been particularly well received by both non-state actors and state actors, and will be launched in the coming weeks. However, while the mobilization is there, while there is a platform for exchange, and where the guidance documents are known and contextualized, we still have many obstacles ahead of us before we can make adult learning a reality for all. Firstly, I would like to mention the difficulty of financing adult learning and education. We spoke a bit about it yesterday. Difficulty to financing it through public resources. And in this respect, I would like to pay tribute to the commitment of countries such as Indonesia or Morocco, where the highest state authorities are committed to the adult learning and education. And this is clearly a prerequisite for financing this sector, this involvement at the highest level of the state. Secondly, I would like to mention as an obstacle, sometimes the lack of effective implementation plan for the strategies. We can see in many situations where the implementations plan are either not sufficiently prepared or simply not existent at all. And that's quite a step that is needed to implement. I mean, coming from the policy to the implementation plan. And we saw also many cases where the implementation plan did not involve sufficiently the local level. So cities and provinces are too often neglected in the implementation plan of adult learning and education policies. Finally, it seems to me that another obstacle to translating intentions into action is the lack of data. The adult education sector is too often a blind spot in education policy. We lack information to build evidence-based policies, to monitor the implementation of programs, and to account for the use of public money. So this is a question of both efficiency and accountability to which more attention should be paid today. So now I would like, if you agree, Mr. Director, to ask you two questions to extend your introductory remarks before opening the floor to the room. So my first question would be the following. So the Bali conference of today emphasizes the need to develop inclusive programs and policies to strengthen the transformative power of adult learning and education. So here is my question. To what extent can we consider that this conference in Bali is a relay of CONFINTEA 7, and to what extent it can help to relay the MFA at a global level?
Good morning, everyone. Just to convey what Mr. Kharbouch has said about the answer for this question. So he considered that Bali is a very important conference to take the CONFINTEA 7 and also the Marrakesh framework of action to be implemented in different regions. So he thinks that from here, we need to have or to promote more the Marrakesh framework for action, and also to widen the message to all the member states and also to all the organizations that are working in the field to implement the priority areas of the Marrakesh framework for action. He's given an example from Morocco. He said that, as my colleague Nicolas mentioned, that Morocco is very much committed. So he said that actually after CONFINTEA, there was like a request from the Ministry of Education, but also from the King, right? To have establish a committee that is following up on the implementation of the Marrakesh framework for action. So this is a concrete action from Morocco towards the implementation of the priority areas of the Marrakesh framework for action.
Thank you. A second question. I know personally that the Kingdom of Morocco is strongly committed to international cooperation and the sharing of good practices in the field of lifelong learning policies, particularly with your neighboring countries, but also more globally. So concretely, in the spirit of CONFINTEA 7, what action would you like to put in place to encourage the implementation of the Marrakesh Framework for Action on the African continent? And which action that could inspire also other regions?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Firstly, I'm so sorry. My English is the English is third language. My first language is Arabic, and second is French, and English is third language. Like I prefer to talk Arabic and سماح translate to English. بالنسبة للمعهد الإفريقي لتعلم مدى الحياة الذي جاء طبعا كمبادرة من جلالة الملك محمد السادس في رسالته الموجهة إلى مؤتمر الدولي لتعليم الكبار كونفينتيا السابع. إنشاء المعهد الإفريقي يعني الآن يعني مباشرة بعد كونفينتيا قمنا بإنجاز دراسة التنفيذ المتعلقة بإنشاء هذا المعهد الإفريقي، ونحن الآن بصدد السيناريوهات المحتملة على مستوى هيكلة والنظام الأساسي لهذا المعهد الذي سيأخذه. طبعا الدراسة أنجزت بخبراء من الاتحاد الأوروبي، وننتظر طبعا اختيار السيناريوهات المحتملة والممكنة لتنفيذ هذا المعهد الإفريقي للتعلم مدى الحياة، والذي سيكون إن شاء الله مقره في المغرب.
So just to emphasize that also the role of Morocco in the region, so Morocco has initiated, and this was also listed in the Marrakesh Framework for Action, the initiative to have a lifelong learning institute in the Morocco for the African continent. So Mr. Kharbouch was saying that actually they already have taken some steps in order to establish this institute, and one of the first steps that they have made several studies together with experts from the European Union, and they have put different scenarios for the implementation of the institute. So now they are in the phase that they are going to select which scenario would be much suitable to establish the institute, and afterwards that they will start immediately the implementation. And of course, the institute will be placed in the Kingdom of Morocco.
Thank you. So we have enough time to take one question from the room. So in your opening remarks, Mr. Director, you insisted on the commitment of the Kingdom of Morocco to designing and implementing evaluable systems for lifelong learning. And what kind of action did you take to monitor and evaluate the program your agency is currently implementing?
اولا لدينا يعني في التنظيم في الهيكله الوزاريه في المغرب لدينا من الممكن ان نقول 4 أو 5 قطاعات وزاريه مسؤوله عن التعلم مدى الحياه. لدينا طبعا وزاره التربيه الوطنيه والتعليم الاولي والرياضه، لدينا وزاره التعليم العالي والبحث العلمي والابتكار، لدينا ايضا وزاره للتكوين المهني وتطوير الكفاءات، ثم الوكالة الوطنية لمحاربة الأمية، بالإضافة إلى وزارة الأوقاف والشؤون الإسلامية. وهذه الوزارات ال5 هي مسؤولة عن برامج التعلم سواء النظامي أو غير النظامي، أي الفرص يعني المتاحة لتدارك طبعا الأشخاص غير المتعلمين أو لتطوير أيضا التعلم مدى الحياة. فهناك يعني تنسيق جاري بين القطاعات ال5 المسؤولة، سواء على مستوى وضع السياسات ومخططات العمل أو ميكانيزمات الرصد، طبعا عن طريق وضع الآليات المناسبة بما فيها الرقمنة التي نعتبرها ورشا أساسيا يعني في تطوير مجال التعلم مدى الحياة. وطبعا هذه الرقمنة تشمل أيضا تحويل المناهج الدراسية والبرامج والتداريب، بما فيها أيضا إنشاء معهد افتراضي للتدريب عن بعد، كل هذه الأشياء، وأيضا تحويل المناهج إلى تطبيقات إلكترونية بالنسبة للاستفادة من الرقمنة.
So to answer the question about the actions that has been taken in Morocco on monitoring and evaluating the lifelong learning programs, just Mr. Kharbouch explained that they are in Morocco, there are 5 entities or ministers that are responsible for the non-formal education. So among them, Ministry of Sports, Ministry of Vocational Education, Ministry of Education, as well as together with the agency to fight against illiteracy. So and also the Ministry of Higher Education. And also the ministry that's responsible for the Islamic affairs. So all of these entities together, or the ministers together, they are working in coordination and partnership in order to enhance or to put also mechanisms for monitoring and evaluation. So they are working closely to find what are the suitable tools in order to monitor and also evaluate the non-formal education. Also, he has mentioned that there is now a focus on the digitalization when it comes also to the tools that is used in the programs of lifelong learning and the provision. So it has been mentioned as well that actually now they are in the process also of transformation for the curriculum of the adult learning education to be digital and used by digital means. So this is one of the key actually developments in this area of lifelong learning to be more digitalized. Yeah. So just to emphasize again that they are working on putting mechanisms for monitoring and evaluation and a system that can allow all the ministers that we spoke about to have inputs for this system and also to monitor and evaluate.
Thank you a lot, Mr. Director, for this discussion. So now I can close the opening and I give back the floor to our brilliant Master of Ceremony, Gilda.
Thank you, Jonah. Let's give a round of applause, please. And let's have a photo together. May we stand, please? Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and our special speaker, the first morning speaker this morning. And 3, 2, 1, Bali. And looking at the video, thank you. Once again, let's give our applause of thanks and gratitude. You may return to your seats. Thank you. One reminder, we will have the next plenary session. And at this plenary session, for those of you who would like to raise questions, you can press the microphone button right in front of you, and this will be queued by our system for the moderator to later call you to state your question. So everybody, can you please raise your hands, your right hand or left hand, whichever you prefer. Yes, everybody, please raise your hand and touch the button right in front of you. That's right. That's the way to do it. Excellent. We want you to raise questions later for the session, okay? Motoric action is needed so that your physical body would know exactly what to do next when you want to raise the question. Thank you. Wow. Fabulous learning curve this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, one more thing. A few of you came to me yesterday to ask me about how many Balinese dances are put together on stages or every day in the educative practices of the Balinese villagers. Indeed, more than dances, we have songs, music, drama, and even stand-up comedies. We use this to educate and pass on moral values. What the older generation would like to teach the younger generation, we use all our cultural performances at every temple ceremonies. For example, this coming Saturday, the 8th of July, we will be celebrating the birthday of plants. So all over Bali, if you are staying on, and we do hope that you will be staying on for this weekend, you will see a lot of gratitude and offerings presented to plants and to everything, trees, Mother Earth, that we celebrate every 6 months. So this is a cycle of 6 months. And so for those of you staying with us this Saturday, 8th of July, please take time to greet the trees and the plants and the flowers all around you, because that's our day of gratitude for nature. And we are ready, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Let's proceed to Plenary 3, the inclusive adult learning and education in the post-CONFINTEA context, making adult learning and education more inclusive in a lifelong learning perspective, monitoring the implementation of the Marrakesh Framework for Action at global, national, and local level. We are honored to call on to center stage to moderate this session Honorable Director, Department of Education, Republic of the Philippines, Dr. Ethel Agnes Valenzuela.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to see you all. Apologies, I'm not the Department of Education Director. I'm working as the advisor of ASEAN on the future of education. So let me correct that because the Assistant Secretary is here with us. So I'm afraid, you know. Hello, good morning, ASEC GH from the Philippines. Okay, so this is a very serious discussion, and I have taken the privilege of sending to you our proposal to discuss what is the future of ASEAN in terms of lifelong learning, and how do we bring the Marrakesh Framework of Action to the countries. You know, at Morocco, we enjoyed everything, very nice place, and the commitments. But what happens after that? That's the most important thing. And in this particular session, I have invited our Director for ASEAN, Secretariat, the Director of Education, Youth and Sports, the Head of the Education, Youth and Sports Division, Dr. Roger Chao Jr., to join us and give us, you know, from the bigger international agreement, we'll take it down to the regional level at the ASEAN, and then to the national levels. So after Dr. Roger Chao giving us an overview of what it's like to bring international commitment to the regional level, I will have my panelists from Vietnam, Cambodia, and Indonesia. So I think I would have to call the Regional Center for Lifelong Learning, hosted in Ho Chi Minh City by the Ministry of Education of Vietnam, Mr. Phuoc, to join me here. Mr. Khau Phuoc is the manager of the Center for Lifelong Learning. Please, Mr. Phuoc. We will also listen to the translation of commitments and actions in Cambodia. So I have invited our fellow for ESD and lifelong learning. Dr. Soth is the Dean of the College of Education of Royal University of Phnom Penh. And finally, also joining us, our partner here in Indonesia has been helping us a lot on adult and lifelong learning online. I have Mr. Aulia Luqman Aziz, representing the Administrative Science Faculty of Universitas Brawijaya, Indonesia. So I think we have gender imbalance, but in the afternoon session, we'll have more female. Don't worry, I'm leading them, so it's balanced. Okay, so after Marrakesh, we have a lot of commitments, and I'm afraid, you know, how can we monitor, how can we bring this to the grassroots levels, from the civil society, partnership, to the universities, and to our capacity building centers. For SEAMEO is helping us in all training programs all over Southeast Asia, and we have invited also in this afternoon session our speakers to tell us the work and the efforts on intergenerational adult learning. So please join us as well in the ASEAN session. And Dr. Roger Chao Jr. is leading this Education, Youth, and Sports Department. You know, in our region in ASEAN, we're said to be the 7th largest in the world in terms of population. In Asia, we are the 3rd. The first is China, and then we have India, and we have ASEAN combined population. And we're projecting that by 2050, half or majority of the population of ASEAN would be young people from 15 to 34. So right now, the future is with them. We must do something for them, that is to really provide appropriate training, upskilling, reskilling, whatever. But we just came out of the pandemic. So our topic, our discussion will be, you know, how do we bring all of them together after digitalization, transformation? How do we equip them, and how do we promote adult and lifelong learning? So without further ado, let's give a hand to Dr. Roger Chao Jr. of ASEAN Secretariat. Dr. Roger, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ethel. Excellencies, distinguished panelists, distinguished guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I would have loved to join you in person. Unfortunately, I have commitments to join the AUN events tomorrow, and I have to fly this afternoon. But I'm quite happy that my schedule allows me to join you virtually from Jakarta. So my task is basically to frame the discussion on lifelong learning within the context of Southeast Asia. But I will also be discussing key aspects which I think needs to be focused on to improve lifelong learning in general within a comprehensive approach. Now, the topic of my talk will be transforming lifelong learning, alignment, inclusion, quality, and recognition, which I think are the key components that needs to be addressed. ASEAN has been established in 1967, and it has moved forward to its collaboration among its ASEAN member states. Of course, it expanded significantly in the late 1990s and has increased engagement with various dialogue partners around the world. The ASEAN Community Vision 2025, or the Kuala Lumpur Declaration, put in key components of what an ASEAN community is. It's basically to consolidate a rules-based, people-oriented, people-centered community, which is peaceful, stable, and resilient. But take note, it is also supposed to complement global agendas and the building of a global community, in particular, the UN 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. It's composed of 3 pillars: political security, economic, and socio-cultural. And education, youth, and sports are under the ASEAN socio-cultural community pillar. And the major role is actually for the full potential, developing the full potential of the ASEAN people. So that's the role of socio-cultural community. I'm presenting this slide. I'm sure everyone knows this, but I would just like to highlight, since we're talking about lifelong learning, ASEAN member states are committed to the UN Sustainable Development Agenda, including all the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And in particular, SDG 4 highlights ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all, which is very much relevant to the conference, which is Inclusive Lifelong Learning Conference, looking at how we ensure that no one is left behind and that everyone has the skills, competencies, and values required to participate in community building and to communicate in society, to engage and participate in society. Now, why is this very important? We have to talk about universal, free, equitable, quality, primary, secondary learning, in particular, relevant learning outcomes. Learning, as we all know, comes from different different platforms, not only in the formal setting, but also in formal and non-formal settings. However, there's a need for alignment. And I'll discuss that in the later slides. Now, to frame what has been happening in the region, I would like to present a few of the contemporary ASEAN declarations during the past few years. The ASEAN Master Plan on Connectivity 2025 aims to achieve seamlessly and comprehensively connected and integrated ASEAN that will promote competitiveness, inclusiveness, and a greater sense of community. The ASEAN Declaration on Human Resources Development for a Changing World of Work recognizes the challenges of the rapidly changing world of work and the need for reskilling, upskilling, and learning new skills and competencies. The joint statement and eventually the declaration on digital transformation of education systems in ASEAN highlights the need to transform education systems in ASEAN, utilizing digital technologies to enhance various issues related to the digital transformation of society. That includes the digital transformation and enhancing inclusiveness, quality, and relevance of education in the region. The ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework was put in place because of the COVID pandemic. But take note, one of the key areas is accelerating inclusive digital transformation. The ASEAN Digital Master Plan 2025 is put in place to see ASEAN become a leading digital community and economic bloc, powered by secure and transformative digital services, technologies, and ecosystems. And take note, I would like to add, digital transformation of education systems. The power of digital technology has been recognized to be a strong tool and a key lever for empowerment. And we have to take the role of technology to transform our systems, lifelong learning systems, to encompass and make sure that each and every individual, no matter what age, no matter where they are located, no matter what ethnicity, religion, or beliefs, will have access to lifelong learning opportunities. Take note, under the leadership of Cambodia during their ASEAN chairmanship and with support from UNICEF EPRO, the Reopen, Recover, Resilience, and Education Guidelines for ASEAN countries put in place guidelines to ensure that schools reopen and remain open, that the learners recover learning loss, and build the resilience in education across all education subsectors. The desired impact is that learners develop the skills and knowledge to strive in life and contribute to their community and national development. Take note, I would like to reiterate, develop the skills and knowledge to strive in life and contribute to their community and national development. This is one of the reasons why lifelong learning is very important. To empower each and every individual to contribute to community building, to their respective communities, nation, region, and of course, the global community. I would like to reiterate that there is a need for effective advocacy at the highest political level. And I am quite happy that this Bali conference, organized by and hosted by the government of Indonesia and the UNESCO Institute of Lifelong Learning, because this highlights and shows advocacy and actually operationalization of the Marrakesh framework at the highest political level. And I look forward to the deliberation and adoption of the Bali Declaration later during the conference. Now, let me highlight the 4 aspects I wanted to discuss. The first one is alignment. Alignment within a lifelong learning framework. The ASEAN Work Plan on Education is framed within a lifelong learning framework. However, there is a significant need to really address developing multiple learning pathways, which empowers learners. Take note, when I say learners, it's from kids all the way to adults, including retirees, everyone. Why empowerment of learners? Because each and every learner has their own desires, their own needs, and their own wants. There are knowledge that they seek, and there are knowledge that they would like to develop and create and share. However, the knowledge and learning that they take, most importantly, in the non-formal sector, is not really recognized or not given credit. And these are things that needs to be addressed. The multiple learning pathways need to utilize digital technologies. As mentioned, the Declaration on Digital Transformation of Education Systems in ASEAN was adopted November last year during the 40th and 41st ASEAN Summit. This year, under the leadership of Indonesia as ASEAN Chair for 2023, the roadmap on digital transformation of education systems in ASEAN is being developed and currently being consulted through the ASEAN process. We expect that this roadmap will be endorsed, adopted, and noted eventually through ASEAN processes all the way to the ASEAN Summit. However, I would like to reiterate as well that digital transformation is not just digitizing textbooks or learning materials. It's the inclusion of appropriate pedagogy and andragogy. Why do I include pedagogy? Because lifelong learning is not only limited to adult education or adult learning. It should be seen comprehensively across and throughout life, through different aspects and subsectors of education, and across formal, informal, and non-formal channels. Multiple delivery channels is important, particularly because, as mentioned by our earlier speaker, the lifelong learning opportunities cannot be funded only by public sector and public finances. There is a need for multi-stakeholder collaboration, not only in terms of delivery channels, but also in the development of the learning materials, the use and adoption of technology, and of course, enhancing the creation of knowledge by learners, by academia, by the different learning providers, and everyone in society. I would like to reiterate that lifelong learning should be learner-focused and competency-based. The multiple learning pathways needs to be adaptable and flexible. So as such, we still have a long way to go. And adoption and operationalization of the Marrakesh framework is very important. The second aspect I would like to talk about is inclusive and equitable lifelong learning. Everyone has the right to education and lifelong learning. However, recognition, or rather the validation, assessment, and recognition of learning that has been undertaken, particularly in non-formal sectors, is rather lacking. In some countries, like in Denmark, they have a process where the recognition of prior learning is undertaken and given recognition. UNESCO has this qualification passport for refugees. Europe has one. Norway started the development of the European qualification passport for refugees, which highlights the importance of validation and giving recognition to learning, particularly for refugees. So the importance of ensuring that each and every individual can be given the opportunity to have their learning skills and competences recognized is important when we're talking about inclusive and equitable lifelong learning. Furthermore, although it may be a challenge now, who knows, in 10, 20 years' time, it may be the reality. Mobility of qualifications and recognition of learning. Learning is undertaken and hopefully recognized, but it has to be mobile, because what you learn, the skills, qualifications, and values you have is not limited to a country. It should be recognized and should give you access to further opportunities because of the skills, competencies, and values that you have through and that you have learned as well through formal, informal, and non-formal channels. I highlight recognition of prior learning because I believe that a bookkeeper who has been working for 10 years and decides to take up an accountancy program should not start learning from scratch when he has the skills and competencies of a bookkeeper. In fact, his life experience should be recognized and given credits and forms part of the qualifications that he wants to achieve. When we talk about inclusive and equitable lifelong learning, we have to make sure that there are no barriers because of one's socioeconomic status, ethnicity, and other factors. Socioeconomic status has always been seen as a major barrier to education and, in a broader aspect, lifelong learning. It is not a reason not to give access to lifelong learning because formal, non-formal, and informal settings are there. The important thing there is to ensure that learning opportunities are available to each and every one of us. This is particularly a challenge for refugees and people with, who are displaced. However, it is equally challenging to the marginalized and vulnerable populations of each and every one of our countries. One of the key things that should be addressed is to continuously look for innovation to key aspects of lifelong learning, particularly funding, delivery, and recognition. Validation, assessment, and recognition of learning is an expensive process. However, it is a right. Learning is there, and everyone deserves the right that their learning, the skills, competencies, and values that they achieve be recognized. As such, there is a need to significantly look for innovative approaches to validation, assessment, and recognition and to ensure that it becomes less costly and more effective to ensure the quality of the learning that has been undertaken. Next key aspect is quality lifelong learning. Lifelong learning is there across all sectors in different aspects, at home, at work, in society, with our peers. However, how do we ensure quality? There is a need for national, regional, and global guidelines and policies or frameworks to ensure validation, assessment, and recognition of quality lifelong learning. Furthermore, there's a need to integrate these components within national and regional qualifications frameworks. There are initial discussions on revisiting the ASEAN qualifications reference framework, particularly because of digital transformation, the increased use of digital technologies, the increasing usage of MOOCs, CELLL, micro-credentials. Because lifelong learning should be seen and integrated into qualifications framework because it is part of a qualification. If you look at qualifications as a conglomeration of the skills, competencies, and values that one has acquired. However, quality is not only about the delivery of learning now. We have to, in education settings, formal education settings, we have to ensure the relevance of informal and non-formal providers. When we talk about developing inclusive lifelong learning, we have to look at the potential of the informal and non-formal providers in delivering quality learning opportunities to each and every one of us. They have to be given their key roles. However, it has to be ensured that the informal and non-formal providers, even the formal providers, will be delivering quality lifelong learning opportunities and not just delivering any lifelong learning opportunities for everyone. The important thing there is that the skills, competencies, and values that learners acquire will become relevant during the time they undertake the program. However, we have to understand that the learning the skills and competencies you have now or you acquired now may not be relevant in the future. As such, the various lifelong learning providers needs to continuously update and upgrade, and that there will be top-up opportunities for the learners to upgrade their skills and competencies which may no longer be relevant. I would like to reiterate that certain skills and competencies, particularly the ability to continuously learn through life, the ability for critical thinking analysis, communication skills, the various soft skills that one learns throughout life, is continuously enhanced and upgraded through life experience and continuous lifelong learning opportunities beyond the formal learning providers or learning environment. As such, when we talk about quality lifelong learning, there is a need for a comprehensive approach to education and lifelong learning. Ensuring the relevance, adaptability, and flexibility of lifelong learning providers is a necessity, simply because there is the skills and competencies and values required for individuals to effectively participate in community building is rapidly changing and constantly changing. The technologies available now may be obsolete 20 years from now. As such, individuals needs to constantly adapt and constantly learn And it is only through a comprehensive approach to lifelong learning that we will be ensured that each and every one of us will have the opportunity, capacity, and to achieve and participate in the building of a peaceful, sustainable, and prosperous global community. I would like to reiterate as well, when we talk about inclusive and quality lifelong learning for all, that alignment with formal education systems, reintegration, recognition, and second chance is important. However, I am not saying that the formal education sector should be the core. I'm saying that informal and non-formal sectors providing lifelong learning opportunities should also be given its role in the development for the provision of inclusive and quality lifelong learning for all. The next aspect I would like to discuss is recognition of lifelong learning. Promoting and ensuring recognition of lifelong learning is a key component of inclusive quality lifelong learning. As I mentioned, learning occurs in formal, non-formal, and informal settings. Skills, competencies, and values learned are there. However, the key component is to empower individuals and communities, to provide them with opportunities and the power to choose what they want to learn, how they want to learn, when they want to learn, and where they want to learn. The need for multi-stakeholder collaboration and recognition of lifelong learning. I would like to reiterate that we talk about learning, the skills, competencies, and values that one learns is important. However, how can you use these skills and competencies if it is not recognized across different stakeholders? One learns informally or through non-formal channels. However, how can they get work or contribute to the community if their learning is not recognized by the different relevant stakeholders? As such, multiple stakeholders would have to sit down and look at how to ensure the validation, assessment, and recognition, and as well as ensure the quality of the skills and competencies acquired by each and every individual learners.
Thank you very much, Dr. Roger.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much for your sharing. Let's give a hand to Dr. Roger Chao Jr.
Can I just make a statement first?
Yes, his
1 minute.
powerful last statement. Dr. Roger, please.
Yes. I would like to leave each and every one of you with a core message. Lifelong learning is not only a need, because it addresses various aspects and challenges of society, but it is a right of each and every individual. Each and every individual needs the opportunity to learn throughout life, across life, and basically the power to participate and engage in regional, national, and global community building. So with that, thank you very much for the opportunity to share, and I hope I contributed to this important conference. Thank you.
Thank you once again. Well said, Dr. Roger Chao. So it's not a need, but it is a right, right? So I would like to have a photo with Dr. Roger Chao before he moves to the airport for another meeting in KL. Are you ready? Thank you very much. So we have learned from Dr. Roger Chao that at the regional level, at the ASEAN level, there is this ASEAN Community Vision 2025. There were several agreements reached by the ministers, not just of education, but also the leaders who have adapted digital transformation, recovery after the COVID-19 pandemic. And there are a lot of lessons learned, like having our ASEAN mutual recognition agreements, our pathways towards inclusive lifelong learning, that everybody can have access both for formal, non-formal, and informal education. So we are in the process of building the new future of education of ASEAN here. We are helping each other in developing the future of education of ASEAN with me, and thank you very much for joining me in this session. And it's not just the future of education that ASEAN is doing. There is also another group working on the future of work. So I hope you have joined some of their sessions. So at the end of this year, we will combine the future of education, the future of work. Side by side, we can really see that we need to talk and to do a comprehensive plan for the ASEAN region. Now, going to another regional body. So in Southeast Asia, we have ASEAN. It's a political and also a regional organization. And we also have an association of ministers of education, which we call a Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization. And several years ago, if it was in the years of 2009, 2010, we were thinking about lifelong learning already. So in fact, I did the study funded by UNESCO participation program on the lifelong learning audit. So we did all the audits of lifelong learning programs in Southeast Asia. And also from that particular audit, we're able to adopt our Center for Lifelong Learning, which is based in Ho Chi Minh City. So we're lucky to have the manager, Mr. Khau. Phuoc, could you tell us about the topic that we're discussing on adult lifelong learning and what is the way forward? Would you like to take the floor? Thank you.
A very good morning to Excellencies, distinguished speakers, and participants. And I am the first speaker of the 3 countries, so I consider myself a dessert of a meal. And so I will make it very short, quick. And if the dessert is, the appetizer. So, and I will try to make it quick, short. And if it is not interesting, then please be patient, because there will be the tasty main courses there from the other countries. So I would like to begin with saying that I'm going to present about adult education in Vietnam, how it is responding to the Marrakesh Framework for Action. Before I talked about the situation in Vietnam, I would like to review and have a look at the UNESCO recommendation on adult learning and education published in 2015 and in relation to the Marrakesh Framework for Action. So in the UNESCO recommendation on ALL, there are 5 action areas: governance, policies, financing, participation, inclusion, equity, and quality. And if we map that with the Marrakesh Framework for Action, we can see many relevant points. For example, for governance, we have the Marrakesh Framework for Action recommends multi-sectoral platforms to support the governance of ALL. For policy, it recommends using different methods for transforming the concept of lifelong learning into reality, or redesigning a system for ALL. For financing, it recommends increasing funding for ALL. For participation, inclusion, and equity, it recommends promoting inclusion, which means non-discriminatory and gender-responsive curricula, and promoting a culture of lifelong learning. And finally, for quality, we can see that the MFA recommends upskilling and professionalizing adult educators, or expanding the learning domains to include more and more subject matters. Firstly, what about policy? Before I looked into each aspect, I will have to say that Vietnam has not developed any specific policies for the implementation of the market framework for action. But we have been for a long time issued policies that promotes lifelong learning and adult learning and education. For example, Vietnam has multiple policies from the highest level of governance to ministerial level. And for your information, in Vietnam, the resolution, the party direction is at the top. And then the government will translate the direction into laws, into policies. So we have the party resolution, and then law on education, and then the national scheme for building a learning society for this period, 2021-2023, which is the third phase of our scheme. However, in Vietnam, there's still a lack of practical and detailed implementation plans. So from policy, from the direction, from the law, from the policies down to implementation is a big gap. And therefore, we still have challenges. And also because different ministries, different agencies worked on the same issue, they sometimes issue conflicting policies, and which makes it difficult for educators to implement. For governance, we can see that we have a lot of ministries that are involved in providing adult learning and education, and also different organizations or agencies. For example, the Vietnam Association for Learning Promotion, the Voice of Vietnam, Vietnam Television. I'm sorry, please forget the last line. I mistakenly put it there. However, we have not effectively utilized all stakeholders for ELL provision. Especially, we haven't been able to utilize the business sector in providing and promoting ELLs. We haven't policies for that mandate businesses to provide, or we don't have law. The law of labor law doesn't stipulate that businesses will be responsible for allowing time off for employees to learn annually or with incentive. We haven't got those. And number two, we haven't well coordinated the key actors for ELL. And finally, we haven't uniformly managed education and training activities by different providers. As I said before, we have different ministries, we have different agencies, sometimes they have different conflicting policies. And in terms of financing, here is another big challenge. Why? Because in Vietnam, we don't have ELL, adult learning and education. We don't have non-formal education. What do I mean? That is to say, they are just non-existent in any legal documents. In Vietnam, we use the term continuing education. And the continuing education in Vietnam is differently understood. We use continuing education to mean a parallel system, a subsystem of the national education system. So in Vietnam, we have formal education and continuing education in parallel. And continuing education in Vietnam can be include non-formal education, include adult learning and education. And therefore, if we ask, what is the budget for ILLC in Vietnam? The answer is, we don't know, because we only have the budget for continuing education. And again, there's another problem here, because continuing education in Vietnam is provided for by different sectors, and including the private sectors. For some types of centers, we have no statistic on how much we spend on continuing education. But to give you an idea, the graph that you can see on the screen shows the budget for continuing education, national budget for continuing education, for education. And we try to retain that at around 20%. But how much of that amount goes to continuing education, we are not sure. And how much of that, the budget that goes to continuing education can be used for ILLC, we don't know. Yeah. So it is, sorry, I cannot give you a number here. Next, in terms of, I'm sorry for some problem with the display there. Oh yeah, yeah. So the Constitution in 2013, Vietnam amended our Constitution, which states that the state shall give priority to the development of education in mountainous areas, islands, ethnic minority areas, and areas with extremely difficult socio-economic conditions. So we can see that we have that in the Constitution. And the law on education also has specific provision to support students who face difficulty in general, and especially in education for ethnic minority and mountainous areas. However, again, challenges remain because, number one, ethnic minorities people live in very remote area, and it is the social economic condition in those places are not very well developed, and therefore they don't have, it's difficult to encourage people to come to school. It's coming to school will take them 1 hour on foot, and therefore a lot of people don't want to go to school. And later on, when, if I have time, I will tell you some initiative that the Vietnamese government has been doing to encourage ethnic minority people to come to school later on. And here, to quote a number, we have only 7.3% of the people with disability that attend vocational secondary school, compared with 21.9% of people without disability. So we can see that for participation, inclusion, and equity, we have a high level of this in cities. But in remote, rural, mountainous, islandic areas, there is still a big difference. And what about quality? For continuing education, Vietnam provides annual mandatory capacity building to teach teachers in the continuing education system. And recently, the Ministry of Education has made it transferable between the continuing education system, subsystem, and the formal education system. So what happened is that whichever system you follow, whether you are in the continuing education system or in the formal education system, at the end of each level, you will take the same exam. If you pass the exam, you are awarded the certificate. So that way, we want to ensure the quality of the learner's outcome. But what actually happens within the time they study is maybe different. The continuing education system, in the continuing education system, students have study condensed programs, shorter courses. So with that, I would like to sum up that Vietnam has a lot of policies for ALL, to promote ALL, and it involves many ministries in the provision of continuing education. However, challenges remain because ALL doesn't have a legal status in Vietnam. And at the moment, the Department of Continuing Education within the Ministry of Education is making a proposal. What is it? To construct a law on lifelong learning. And if this can be done, then ALL, which is a core component of lifelong learning, will receive a better place in the system of education in Vietnam. So with that, I would like to thank you very much for your kind attention. And please enjoy the main courses.
Thank you very much, Mr. Phuoc. So I'm sure we are all here because we not only want to see the best practices, but we also would like to listen to what are the gaps in implementation, very good policies, but there are still work for us. That's why SEAMEO CELL should work more. The SEAMEO Center for Lifelong Learning, already over a decade, is really helping countries in Southeast Asia, but we need to look at all the angles from policy development to financing and to reaching the unreached. Thank you very much, Mr. Phuoc, for sharing. Appetizer is done. Let's go to the main course. Let's go to Royal University of Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Together with Dr. Soth, we have tried to do capacity building, also funded by UNESCO headquarters and UNESCO Bangkok, several years back before the pandemic. So, Dr. Soth, the time is yours. Tell us about your work.
Thank you very much. I'm very nervous now because Dr. Ethel talked about the imbalance of gender, and then Dr. Phuoc talked about I'm being the main course. And I want the main course to be someone with long hair and a slender body, something that I don't have. So I'm sorry to disappoint you with this main course, and I'm not going to promise I'm going to be short because a lot of times when we say I promise to be short, we tend to be very long. So I'm going to tell you differently. I'm going to tell you a story, and the story relates to what you see on the screen. And the story is related to a little bit of the history of education and teacher education and teacher in Cambodia, and how that contribute to inclusive adult learning and education in Cambodia. The way we do it, we don't really focus so much on, like Dr. Phuoc say, the term continuing educations, adult learning and educations, and you name it. Like Juliet, when she fell in love with Romeo, she said, what's in the name? So in Cambodia, the initiative from the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport is to go on with a novel idea so that we are able to do inclusive adult learning and education in such a way that you won't find it on the slide if you follow the slide, but if you listen to me, you will hear the story and how it play out very well. It began with teacher and principal upskilling program at the Faculty of Education, an initiative by the Ministry of Education together with our development partners, World Bank in particular, and also with the Royal University of Phnom Penh. Why upskilling? Because maybe you know a little bit about Cambodia, you know about the Khmer Rouge, you know about what they did to people who could read and write. They were eliminated. And after the Khmer Rouge, we tried to install education. But because we didn't have teacher, we teach someone to grade 3, and then we teach them to teach grade 1. So we call that 3+1. And then we have 5 plus 1, 7 plus 1, and 11 plus 1, 11 plus 2, and now we have 12 plus 2, and we're trying to catch up, especially when we do ASEAN integration. We're very nervous because coming here, listening to everyone speaking so good in English, and our teacher are trying to catch up, you know, especially when you have the dessert, you will see that the dessert will present to you in flawless English that Cambodian teachers needs a lot to catch up with. So that's the context. How do we upscale them? How do we upskill them? We upskill the principal and the teacher to address the issue of dropout. In Cambodia, until now, 100 students who enroll in elementary, only 18 of them will make it to higher education. What happened to the rest? They drop out because they need to make a living. And development and globalization, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, because it put a pressure on everyone. I want to have touch screen too. I want to have internet too. I want to have flat screen TV too, and motorbikes and cars. And when the roads are good, everyone is eager to maybe step out of school and go into the labor market, make some money. Parents who needs to survive sometimes are tempted to bring the children out of school and into the labor market. So we are addressing that by upskilling the principal and the teacher to address the issue by providing them an approach of learn and earn. Whatever the student do, whatever the teacher do, whatever the principal do, they have to work together with the community in order to help the student learn and earn so that they are able to have enough to feed themselves, to save for higher education, and also to improve learning to make it very practical. We all academics know sometimes what happened in the classroom, whether it's elementary, secondaries, or in university, is a little bit different from what happened in the jobs market. So by doing this, we are actually restructuring our curriculums. We make our classroom curricula all the way up to higher education fit exactly into life skill, into the needs of the society, and the rest will follow. We train the principal to elect schools management committee that runs by the respectable person in the community. And of course, when we talk about education, we talk about money. We never have enough money for education. It doesn't matter where the country is or what the country is. We always want more. The teacher want more money. The school want more money because education is such a much needed thing in order to provide the best to our student. But when we involve the community can see now, oh, that's why school can't do so much. Because, for example, in Cambodia, a school received the grant of around $5 per student. So if you have 100 students in your school, you receive about, times 5 of that, and you don't have so much money. But of course, where you can get the money from? Community, because when the community is engaged in school, they want to do the best for school, for classroom. So we have classroom management committee, we have school management committee, all governed, all run by the community member, working together with the principal. And what does the teacher do? We train them in order to teach whatever that can be taught. Thanks to COVID, we teach the teacher in order to convert everything to Google Form, learn everything with Google Form, come to class and do some project work. And with the project works, we are going to earn. If you come from a family that grow vegetable, we help you grow vegetable. We put them into a group, we grow vegetable. If you raise animal, we raise animal in the classroom, in the school, and then you have to do more at home. And if you have small business, we teach you investment program, and then you have to enlarge that, expand that at school. By doing so, everyone at home, it doesn't matter how old. So if you grow vegetable, the children grow one cabbage in the class, but they have to grow a lot more at school, and they have to involve their parent, their elder, their auntie. And when they get the product, they're supposed to market it in such a way that they sell it to the people who want to support education, to support their future. So we don't just go into the market and compete with the market. We can't compete with the import product from the neighboring country, from China. But when you teach the student to sell their product like that, they sell to people who want to help the student to earn and learn and save. And everyone in the village suddenly learn about how to market, how to save, how to plan, how to reinvest, how to reach out. So all the soft skill, all the 21st century skill is included, is involved with everyone. And surprisingly, we never imagined that community members learn so much about the technology because we suddenly close the gap. Children, they know everything about social media. The elder, the community members don't know so much. They have to work together. So maybe to market it, to launch their product, to plan it, to work together collaboratively and so on. Through that, school and community work together. They are able to save for their class. Whatever the classroom need, the classroom management committee, the student, the teacher work together, provide that. So when one class is equipped with LCD, with fan, and then another class is going to try to catch up. And the school, and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, we want to pull up the school that start to have enough saving. At the moment, we have certain schools that are able to save enough, and then they have some fund in order to help their teacher. So if a teacher is sick or has an accident now, the school is happily give them $2,000 straight away in order to look after them. And then when they come back, they can just work and help save, pay back the fund. So this is how we do it. And as you can see here, the student transforms school into vegetable. Maybe one student, one vegetable plant, but they have to do a lot more at home. And when they do at home, they have to involve everyone. They have to market it in such a way that we transform everything from formal into non-formal, informals, and beyond. And as such, inclusive adult learning and education is happening right now with everyone, no matter what. So school needs something, they come in, they learn. School learn about the community need, the community need learn about the school need, they work together, they transform their product. So if you want fruit juice, we learn how to make fruit juice, and we even connect them with university, specialized university that come in and help them. If they have surplus product, we process the food, we package it, we sell it. We are going to expand to reduce the import on that area. Ladies and gentlemen, I have just told you a story of how Cambodian government, how our Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport is doing inclusive adult learning and education in the inclusive manner that perhaps you can answer in the quiz that follow. Sorry, no quiz. Thank you very much. Now the dessert.
Thank you very much. It's really very interesting. I have learned a lot about learn plus earn. I think that is really a very good model as well. So we are learning a lot, and true to life, what they need, what they do, the passion. Okay, we don't have a lot of time. I'm sorry for that. I would like to call our dear professor, assistant professor of Universitas Brawijaya, Indonesia, to talk about the role of university community service. So it's really lifelong plus higher ed, because in our survey, which we did several years back before the pandemic, the lifelong learning providers are not just the government or the private sector or the civil society. Much of those that we have documented are lifelong learning providers, which are actually universities. They provide all of these community engagement and CSRs and others. So what is there on lifelong learning in the community? Would like to pass on to you, sir. So sorry, we don't have a lot of time, but this is already the, what? You are the main course, right?
The dessert. All right, distinguished guests, distinguished participants, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace be upon you all. Good morning, everyone. My name is Aulia Luqman Aziz. I'm a lecturer in Universitas Brawijaya, Indonesia. It's located in Malang City, which is in the East Java Island, next to this Bali Island. We are the largest campus in Indonesia because we have 80,000 active students. So we are so happy to meet you all and hope we can have a partnership and collaboration together for the lifelong learning campaign. So I'm the dessert, right? Okay. So let me talk about the food, because I'm the dessert, right? Okay, let me tell you a story, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever consumed or eaten smoked fish? Yes, all right, very nice. So in the Probolinggo city in East Java Island, it is a coastal area in East Java, there is a special or unique culinary called as smoked fish. Yeah, if you go to Probolinggo city, anyone from Probolinggo? No one, okay. So if you go to Probolinggo and then you go to the main road, on the left side and right side of the road, you will see a lot of smoked fish sellers in the form of small canteen or restaurants, yeah. And this business is very lucrative because some of the famous smoked fish stores can earn until tens of millions rupiah every day. Can you imagine that? So, smoked fish is considered as healthy according to some people because it can reduce the moisture content in fish, it can slow down the growth of bacteria and microorganisms, it can extend the shelf life of the fish, and it can reduce the risk of food poisoning. But, ladies and gentlemen, there is also the negative side of producing this smoked fish. Why? Because a lot of people there are still using the traditional method of smoking the fish. So as you can see in the picture, where is the person? Can you see the person? The person is covered by smoke, right? And it's considered not healthy and can cause respiratory problems, eye irritation, and skin irritation or allergic. Even some of the people there confess to us that they just get back from a therapy to maintain the respiratory problem, but then they get back to the traditional method and get the smoke again, all over again. So this is what we do as a university community to them. So we introduce a smoked fish tools or machine, yeah, as you can see in the picture. So we put, we design a special machine here to smoke the fish. So after you burn the coconut or corn, yeah, on the below of the rack, and then you can put the fish on the rack above, and then you close the door. So that's why it's more safer to our healthy and to the sellers there. Right. This is the process. Okay. So it's more healthy and hygienic. Right, so you can imagine, right? So after you close the door, everyone will be protected from the smoke. So that's how we teach the community for new technology. So let me explain more about that. Can you move forward to the next slide? Okay. According to Imam Al-Ghazali, it's a prominent Muslim scholar and philosopher, there are 4 types of people in this world. The first one is people who know, and they know that they know. It means that they have knowledge, and they know that they have knowledge, and then they can use it to other people, to mankind. I believe all of you here in this room belongs to this group, because you come here, you learn something from your institution, from your country, and then you share it with other people. That's, you know, and then you know that you know. The second type of people is people who know, yet they don't know that they know. So these people cannot make use of their potential and knowledge to the betterment of themselves and to the other people. This is considered as negative type of people. The third people are those who don't know, means they don't have knowledge enough, but they know that they don't know. So they learn, they go to school, they learn, they go to the community center, and so on. They take courses, they learn something. And the fourth type of people is those who don't know, and they don't know that they don't know. And I believe these happen in most community, most society, in the rural areas, where the level of education is lower rather than in the city area. And then on the other side, in Indonesian universities, we have these three pillars of higher education. In Bahasa Indonesia, it's called as Tridharma Perguruan Tinggi. So basically, this is what a university lecturer and student should do during their life in the university. The first one is education, which includes teaching and learning, and writing research, and then doing research, including writing articles for publication in journals, in books, disseminating in conference, in seminars. And the third one is community service. Yes, all of lecturers in Indonesia are obliged to do community service, just like what we did in the previous video. So I want to make a link between the people in the fourth type with the community service that the lecturer should do in Indonesian universities, which means that we, as the people who know, and we know that we know, we have to come to the fourth type of people and see their problems, ask their problems, see the potential in their area, see the potential in the people, and then we try to suggest them solution of problems. If they want to use it, then use it. If they don't want to use it, then leave it. Right? And this community service doesn't only happen to the lecturers. We also oblige our students to conduct community service, just like today, actually. Today, we dispatch our students to 1,000 villages across East Java province. The program is called as MMD. MMD Mahasiswa Membangun Desa means students building 1,000 villages program. And the mission is to increase university involvement through students playing an active role in strengthening social, economic, and environmental capacity of the community. So the students will stay in the village for about 1 month, and then they see the problem, what is the problem of the society there, and then they try to solve the problem by using the knowledge that they gain from the classrooms. So as a recommendation, I would like to propose to all of you that we have to encourage the community service activity. University lecturers should be more and better encouraged to conduct community service, because this is different with doing research, which is quite common in our life as a researcher, but community service is different because we directly talk and meet with the society. So the authority should provide more funding and training. And the second one is, why don't we try to create a joint community service? Joint research is a common term, right? We do research with researchers from Cambodia, from Vietnam, from the Philippines, and so on. But I think we never perform such an international community service in which we Indonesian lecturers come to your country, and then we see this, the problem of the society together, and then we try to solve their problems together, and we get the experience, and the people can learn from all of us. So let's try to make a kind of international alliance among educational stakeholders, like university lecturer, teacher, student, educational specialists. So we open chances for not only joint research, but also joint community service across borders. As a closing, there is a saying from the Prophet of Muhammad, Khairun nas anfa'uhum linnas, which means the best human is the one who benefits other humans. We don't talk only to Indonesian people or Cambodian people or Vietnam people or European people or American people, but for other humans. So we are encouraged to be useful for all mankind, regardless the countries and the ethnic. Thank you very much. I thank you for Dr. Ethel to having me, and thank you for being wonderful listeners. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much. So in this session, we're able to listen to ASEAN, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Indonesia. This afternoon session, because they have 2 sessions for the ASEAN on the future of lifelong learning, we will listen to Malaysia, and then we have Philippines, and also the civil society, ASBE. So please come to our session this afternoon. And we don't have time for Q&A, but in case you would like to ask them for further questions or clarifications, during our coffee break, maybe you can ask them. I'm so sorry we don't have a lot of time, but thank you all very much for sharing your expertise. No more time, sorry. And one last, yeah.
Excuse me. Dr. Ethel, can you just say one line?
One line, please.
I don't think I belong to any of the 4 categories of people that you talked about. I am the kind of people who know that I know, but I know that there's still a lot that I don't know, and that's why I need to learn, keep learning, lifelong learning. That's the idea.
Okay. No more response from Indonesia. So thank you all very much, and I would like to pass on to our anchor for the next round. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and give a round of applause once again to our Madam Moderator, who is the Advisor, Future of Education of ASEAN ASCC R&D Platform, UIL Governing Board member as well. And let's have a group photo. Please step up to the front. Ridwan Bali with a smile. Yes, Bali. Thank you. Let's give our round of applause. Thank you very much. We invite you to return to your seats. And remember to give the session feedback. We have a QR code for you to shoot your phone camera on for the session feedback. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will next take a short break. You may enjoy coffee, tea outside at the foyer area of the Karangasem Ballroom. Please return to this ballroom in 15 minutes. We continue on with a series of activities of making inclusive adult learning and education a reality. Please be back 11:15. Thank you and enjoy the well-deserved break. Calling all delegates who are still outside, we are now inviting you to enter the main room. Please come in, bring your coffee and tea. Just be careful about it. Bring in your coffee and tea and join us again as we will proceed immediately to the next session, which is the plenary 4. So once again, calling all delegates who are still outside, we are now inviting you into the room to be seated. Thank you. Once again, we are calling all delegates. Calling all delegates, please. We are inviting you to return to the main room. We're about to commence our next session. You are welcome to bring your coffee and tea. Be careful about it, but welcome, please. Bring your coffee and tea into the room, and you may continue to enjoy snacks provided for this coffee break throughout the next session of Plenary 4. Once again, we're calling everyone. Please, we're inviting you to take your seats. Thank you. Once again, we're calling all delegates. Please bring your coffee and tea inside, and we're inviting you to take your seats. Thank you. And for those of you who are back into the room, thank you very much. You are reminded to once again switch all mobile devices to silent mode for the comfort of all delegates in the room. And please keep your focus, attention to those on stage. The conversation is united as one, and we don't want to have our personal conversation on the floor. We would like to also remind you, for the panel discussion, there'll be time allocated for questions later. And don't forget, for simultaneous interpreting system, we have 2 channels, Bahasa Indonesia and English, and kindly return the headsets after the conference. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Kindly take your seats. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are now moving on to Plenary 4. But before that, allow us please to remind everyone once again, kindly switch all mobile devices to silent mode for the comfort of all delegates in the room. And also, let's keep our conversation focused and centralized onto the conversation that is on center stage. Ladies and gentlemen, we also have time allocated for questions during the next panel discussion, which may be done by pressing the button onto the speakerphone, the speaker machines right in front of all of you. We are ready for upskilling and reskilling all adults, ALE, in the age of changing labor market needs, on the road to flexible learning pathways for upskilling and reskilling the Indonesian case. Plenary 4, without further ado, our moderator is President of the National Institute for Lifelong Learning Education, NILE, of the Republic of Korea. Please welcome onto center stage Honorable Dae Jung Kang.
welcome to Plenary 4, Reskilling and Upskilling All Adult. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for introducing me. And I'm Daejung from South Korea. Plenary 4 is a continuation of this morning's sharing and discussion of making the inclusive lifelong learning a reality. We had a chance to listen to listen to the message from Morocco, the hosting country of the 7th CONFINTEA. Thank you, Minister Ben Moussa, and thank you, Director Kharbouch. They shared how the Moroccan government have worked to fulfill the Marrakesh framework for action. And thank you for mentioning the International Conference on Lifelong Learning, actually hosted by the ANLCA of Morocco and the National Institute for Lifelong Education about 3 weeks ago in Rabat. And we also heard from the panelists of Plenary 3 on inclusive adult learning and education in the post-CONFINTEA context in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Indonesia, and ASEAN member countries in general. So in this Plenary 4, we'll focus on reskilling and upskilling. It is the hottest topic of the national policy around the globe nowadays. Especially after pandemic and the digital revolution caused by the unforeseen technology, especially like ChatGPT. ChatGPT is very popular in South Korea and it triggers a lot of changes in education sectors. So we will have focused 3 main objectives for this plenary. First, we'll explore diverse perspective on upskilling and reskilling for adults in their respective countries. And secondly, we'll discuss the emergence of flexible learning pathways in adult learning and education. And lastly, we'll gain valuable insight into the current challenges associated with implementing flexible learning pathways and how to navigate them. It's among the very fluid labor market changes nowadays. So we will have 5 distinguished speakers for this plenary. I would like to invite each of them. Ms. Suharti, Secretary General, the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology from the Republic of Indonesia. Let's welcome Ms. Suharti. And our second speaker of the plenary is Ms. Mbet, Assistant Secretary for Alternative Learning System and Education Assessment, Department of Education, Republic of the Philippines. Our third speaker, Mr. Aswin Widianto, Officer in Charge, Director of Community Education and Special Education, Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology from Republic of Indonesia. And the fourth speaker is Mr. Yeorin Phu, Executive Director of Institute of Adult Learning, Singapore. And our last speaker is Ms. Mary Macaulay, Program Specialist, Skills Throughout Life, UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning. So we will have a short presentation from 5 speakers. Because of the time constraint, I would ask you to deliver your presentation probably within 8 minutes so that we can invite the audience to engage your presentation. You know how to raise your question as a master moderator repeatedly say to you, and you just press the button on your microphone if you have any questions. We will have a Q&A session after the 5 presentation. So I will invite the Ms. Suharti, the Secretary General, the Ministry of Education, Culture and Research and Technology, Republic of Indonesia. I would like to give you some sense of her background. Suharti received a PhD in Demography and Social Research from the Australian National University. Before joining the ministry as a Secretary General, she was a Deputy Governor for Population and Settlement Management and head of the Jakarta Development Collaboration Network. At the Jakarta City Government Office, she was the head of the Bureau of Planning and International Cooperation at the Ministry of Education and Culture, and the director of the Directorate of Population, Women Empowerment, and Child Protection of the National Planning Agency for the Republic of Indonesia from 2014 to 2015. So she has a rich background to address the Indonesian current state of the reskilling and upskilling. Let's welcome Ms. Suharti. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Kang, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity for me to share what Indonesia has been doing in terms of the lifelong learning programs. Let me start with the issues and challenges that we still have till now. Sorry. Can I have the presentation? Okay.
Can you please reset the time?
Okay.
Time clock?
From this graph, we can see that the education completions Indonesia continuously increase over time. But still, there is a gap, indicating that not all children can finish senior secondary schools, and of course, the university level. And from the graphs on the right, we can see that the adult education participations dropped during the COVID-19 pandemics. But fortunately, we could maintain the participations among the poor, even though it's low, yes, but it didn't get worse because we have provided lots of support for the poor. And this also indicates that we need some a system that can provide education for those who cannot finish the formal school level. Here, another proof that we need flexible and support for those who are not having proper educations. For education context, education is essential for the skills signaling. You can see from the graph that the higher the education attainment, the more likely of the people to get the formal jobs, to get higher income, minimum of wage that they could earn. And you can see from the graphs on the below areas, those who doesn't have any schooling or even have lower secondary schools, most of them are working in the non-formal educations. And from each of the graphs, you can see since 2020 until 2021, the proportions of those working for informal education increase. I think this happens in all countries that the formal sectors have a lower labor markets. And so we need to then provide some support for them to make sure that their productivity can be maintained or even to be improved, and their earns can be also improved. Here is the systems that Indonesia has. Since 1970s and 1980s, Indonesia built that time, we have presidential instructions to build primary schools in every single village in the country. So that in 1984, we could claim that primary schools has been universal since the participation rate was reaching 100% that times. And it continued to the junior secondary schools compulsory educations, and we could claim also in 1994 when the enrollment rates reached more than 90%. But still, even though the government provides lots of subsidy, provides scholarships, now we have about 20 million students from primary to senior secondary school that given the scholarship from the governments, and more than 1 million for the university level students. But still there are children that cannot complete their educations with various reasons. Some, and mostly because they said they don't have enough money to go to school. So that we provide non-formal schemes, non-formal educations from the package A, is equivalent to primary school level, package B equivalent to junior secondary schools, and package C equivalent to senior secondary school from grade 10 to 12. And out of the equivalency programs, we have also skills training or courses that we provide for all age group. The numbers of community learning centers where the non-formal education is given increase over time to make sure that the people with insufficient educations could pursue their educations, not only in terms of increasing their competency in numeracy and literacy, but also other skills. Later on, Pak Aswin could also share with you the programs that we have been doing here in Indonesia. The trainings institutions also increase over time. This one is to provide people to get the skills training in many skills like agriculture, like fisheries, like the one that was presented by Aulia in the previous sessions. It's also done by training institutions, including also for the school-age children. And in the last few years, Ministry of Education is also implementing the program so-called occupational training. In Indonesia, we call it pendidikan kecakapan kerja. We collaborate with industry to improve the skills of the those who are out of schools and who look for jobs in the formal sectors. And also another program, we call it Pendidikan Kecakapan Wirausaha, entrepreneurial training programs for those who would like to be self-employed. We provide the capital seats, it's about 6 to 7 million Indonesian rupiah, is quite a lot here, so that they could have some modalities to start their business. And it can be up to 15 million Indonesian rupiah for each of the participants. And this is targeted especially for the school-age children. So other than that, above the school age, it is the responsibility of other ministries of institutions like the Ministry of Labor Force, Ministry of Agriculture, or even Ibu Deni is also responsible for the those above the school age populations. And what next? What we need to do to make sure that all the programs that we have is in line with the needs. The first one is aligning with the industry demands. We do the cooperations and collaborations not only in terms of internships, but also from the very beginning in formulating the curriculums, and also till the assessment process is also collaborated with the industry. And then the building technological infrastructure is necessary, I think, these times, and enhancing graduate support system. We provide the coachings and job promotions, including what I just mentioned about the capital seats for the participants to start their business. Quality assurance is another one that is very important, necessary, make sure that all graduates could gain the competency that is needed. And also introducing diverse perspective, not only it has to be inclusive, but also taking into account the cultural international perspective. And the last one, improving the stakeholders' perceptions. Non-formal education sometimes is perceived as the